This week's episode of Tech News Day is sponsored by Stitch Fix and Kaptara.
HalfLife 3 confirmed?
Oh my god!
Well, yes, actually. Sort of. As of this week, it's been 15 years since the release of Half-Life 2, which might as well be a century in gaming years.
Yeah.
That's the age of the core gaming demographic at this point.
There are literally people who are younger than Half-Life 2 complaining about Half-Life 3 not existing for a while now.
Yeah, it's a meme. And yeah, Valve did, to be fair, release the short follow-up games Half-Life 2 Episode 1 in 2006 and then Half-Life 2 Episode 2 in 2007, but they never even managed to complete that trilogy for reasons that remain unclear.
They can't count to 3.
Yeah, that's the theory.
Yeah.
Throughout the 12 years since Episode 2, there's been plenty of evidence pointing to more Half-Life titles being in development, but no releases.
Now, some say it's perfectionism and that Valve simply hasn't been able to come up with anything that's up to their standards of greatness. Others say that since the Steam store and multiplayer games like CSGO and Dota are all essentially a money printing machine, Valve has no financial incentive to develop single-player games. Whatever the case, the Half-Life 3 situation has driven a lot of people somewhat justifiably insane because the Half-Life games, they were huge. They were very big games. This would be like if Rockstar released GTA 5, broke a bunch of sales records, and then let 12 years pass without another GTA because they were making more money doing e-commerce.
Which also, still could happen.
There have been very noticeable examples of waiting over a decade to do another game and having it be absolute dog shit.
Duke Nukem forever?
Duke Nukem.
Sad.
Yeah.
Well, this week, Valve just came out and admitted that they've got a new Half-Life game coming out. The first Half-Life game in 12 years. But it's not Half-Life 3, and it's not Half-Life 2 Episode 3, it's Half-Life Alyx. And it's a VR exclusive. Wah, wah.
Sorry, kids.
Yep, virtual reality, a gaming trend which sadly, but also predictably, has failed to really catch on. It's just hard for anyone to justify spending more than the cost of an entire gaming console just on VR hardware. Which makes this move kind of brilliant.
Yeah.
Valve released their second-gen VR headset, the Index, over the summer, but at $500, it's a pretty tough sell.
Correction, it's actually $1,000 for the whole package.
But if you've been waiting for a new Half-Life game for over a decade, well, what's a few $100s?
Exactly. Gotta get them through the door. Oh, you wanna play Half-Life? Are you a rich enough dude to spend $500 on a new VR headset to play it? Now, is this only an exclusive for their proprietary headset?
Well, they haven't announced any real details yet.
Okay.
There's a lot of theories, though. Apparently, a lot of people, Alana Pierce including, have known about this to some degree. If I had to guess, it'll probably be an Index exclusive for like 6 months to a year and then open up to
because
other
honestly, I've been very curious in the Oculus Quest, which is the completely hands-free one, because now you can connect it to your computer and play Oculus games.
Oh, I did not know that.
Via that by plugging it in with just a one cord. So you're not like, putting sensors all over your room and So I'm interested in that, and if it works with Steam and potentially that.
I didn't even realize Oculus had released a second Rift. No. It's like they fixed everything shitty about the first one, but it's like too little, too late.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing hanging up is it's owned by Facebook, which is really driving me away from the idea that I'd like to play it.
And that's why, we used to get paid to do little promos for
Oculus.
The Oculus
Probably
Rift.
not anymore.
And I get the strong impression someone at Facebook put 2 and 2 together and they're like, wait, these guys talk shit on us all the time.
Constantly.
Stop giving them money.
It's relentless.
Fair play.
At this point, we really don't know anything about Half-Life Alyx except that Valve is holding a press conference to unveil it on Thursday. But there are plenty of believable sounding rumors, which are as follows. It takes place between Half-Life 1 and 2. The player character will unsurprisingly be Half-Life 2's Alex Vance. It will be released in March of next year, and it will feature a control system known internally as Gravity Gloves. And yes, I said that right. Gravity. Which are basically a VR successor to Half-Life 2's Gravity Gun. So I guess we only have to wait till Thursday to find out if any of this is true and if Valve has a decent shot at making people excited about VR again. So we'll keep you updated.
Yeah, it would make me so happy if this is successful. Because right now it's like, VR is fun, but no one's really figured out how to develop games for it that
it's
are
a hassle.
Yeah, everything feels like a tech demo. So if they're able to really make this a worthwhile, long-form game, that would be very cool.
Beat Saber has proven to be the adoption game of choice.
Yeah.
It runs perfectly on pretty much every VR headset that I've seen it run on. The problem is, outside of the Quest, which is wire-free, VR is a fucking hassle. I have a PSVR, and I have played Beat Saber on it, but once I put it away, it takes so much to be like, all right, let me unload everything out and start plugging things in.
That's why the Rift 2 and the Index have inside-out tracking, so you don't have to put sensors up on the walls. The sensors are literally in the headset.
Yeah.
That's a huge improvement, because setting up and calibrating, God.
It's the worst.
It's awful.
Yes, and it doesn't work very well.
But in other gaming news, Google Stadia, whatever, it's out.
Yeah.
And
I own it, and I don't even know how to pronounce
this fucking schmuck, he actually ordered it and didn't cancel his pre-order. But yeah, it's out only for the people who pre-ordered the Founders Pack.
Yeah.
Now, is it good? Well, we don't know. But does this look good? Now, what you're seeing here is Gene Park, writer for the Washington Post, testing out Stadia on his office's gigabit Ethernet. And as you can see, there is some input lag.
Yeah.
About half a second of input lag. In other words, absolutely unusable.
Yes, this is video games we're talking about here.
And he's not alone in this experience, though it does sound like, for the most part, most reviewers experienced this level of bullshit momentarily, and for the most part, things ran quite smoothly. Just not quite as smoothly as on a console or PC, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Overall, it is a pretty impressive technical feat. Eyes on the prize. It's pretty amazing what it is.
Yeah, sure.
But as most reviewers pointed out, the question still remains as to who this is for and why that person would choose this over something else.
Again, I will do this very briefly, this explanation. I bought it because I wanted to review it for the show. I have the perfect internet situation for it at my apartment and here at the studio, and I travel. All those three things combined, it's a good test case. It's essentially pretty cheap because I wanted the Chromecast Ultra anyway. That's why I got it. Having said that, you're probably wondering how I don't have a review ready yet, and we'll get to it. But first, here's some notes from other people who have played it. Paul Tassi of Forbes wrote, "The entire Stadia model is baffling to me. If you could use Stadia as an extension of your current gaming platforms, playing your console games on the go or on your laptop or phone or iPad without downloads or hardware, that would be pretty cool. Stadia, sorry, we really to this day do not know how to pronounce it, despite it being everywhere. Stadia is not that. Rather, it's an entirely self-contained ecosystem where you have to repurchase any game you want to play. Borderlands 3 is coming to Stadia in a little while, but why on earth would I ever play it there? I would have to start from scratch, as that game and most games do not have cross-save right now. Some do, like Destiny 2, which is being used as a flagship Stadia launch title. And yet, as an avid Destiny 2 player, A, I would only play on Stadia if my consoles and my PC and laptop spontaneously burst into flames and I had another choice, and B, Stadia does not share a player population with any other platform, and I would be amazed if that didn't end up creating serious matchmaking or group finding issues after launch. The good thing, though, I noticed this, that apparently if you're the Founders Pack person, you get Destiny, the complete collection, for free.
Yeah.
So that's your one less barrier of entry.
Weirdly, Destiny, it sounds like it's the game that runs the worst on the platform. It
looks that way.
The optimization on Destiny 2 is worse than any other game on there.
And it's basically their demo.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Paul Tamayo of Kotaku wrote this. These games work well as test cases, but I can't imagine someone actually shelling out money for this. Let me explain why. Ostensibly, my current setup is ideal for the Stadia. I am a fool who has gigabit internet, a 4K HDR TV, and even a damn Pixel 3.
Well, this is me.
I'm somehow the exact person somebody at Google probably sketched onto a whiteboard in Stadia's early stages. But again, I ask, who else is this for? Outside of the ability to stream games on a browser or your phone, I really can't find a strong selling point for playing games that you can largely get on other platforms already for around the same price. Stadia is for tech-savvy people, but it's likely they already own an easier way to play these games.
That's the one thing that I will disagree with. I will say that if this actually is somewhat adopted and becomes stable and latency issues are perfected, which I don't even know if it's possible, this is the console for people who don't want to buy entire consoles.
Yeah,
you
but
get the Chromecast.
Can Google promote it enough that those people even know that it exists?
I'm still giving this about 3 years before Google completely cancels it.
they seem like they're in it for the long haul, but long is a relative term.
This is going to be like when we were at Machinima and people had like unworkable virtual boys on their desks as props. That's what the Google Stadia controller is going to be in like 3 years.
I mean, it is. You can use that with other stuff, though, right? It's pretty.
I don't know. I haven't looked into it.
I guess, yeah.
Now, of course, despite this technically being a launch, in many ways, I'd say in almost every way, it's a beta test.
More of a gamma test.
Yeah, considering how many of the features that Google promised haven't even been implemented yet and how few people have actually shelled out for the Founders Pack sight unseen. And we don't know the exact number, but according to Kotaku's Jason Schreier, pre-orders were below expectations. It's entirely possible that when Stadia launches for everyone next year, it will work so flawlessly that the idea of owning a high-end gaming machine seems absurd. But then again, we don't even know when exactly the real launch is happening. Still though, between this and Microsoft's xCloud, this business model, it's probably not going away anytime soon.
They're going to give it a good try before they abandon it.
Now, having said that, getting back to the point of, well, you own it, why haven't you tested it yet?
Yeah, Ricky, why haven't you tested it
Well,
yet?
you see, that's because despite ordering the Founders Pack and getting it delivered just one day after its initial release date, Google had an oopsie and didn't send out a large majority of the activation codes. By the way, activation codes came to email instead of being packaged with this, which would make a lot more sense.
Yeah, seems like you'd want your activation code to be with the product.
So in the initial email that I received in preparation for getting my Stadia, thank you for the pre-order, thank you for being a founder, it said, when your Stadia actually ships, we will send you an activation code so you can go ahead and play on your Chrome browser or whatever. Currently, controller in hand, box delivered, Chromecast Ultra hooked up, no activation code.
Yeah, that sounds like Google.
So can't play the thing that I own in my hands.
No, you got it, but yeah, that's great. Wow, you really have untethered yourself from the gaming ecosystem.
I've got low hopes for the minute.
Yeah, this is Google is so bad at hardware. Well, they're good at designing and building the hardware, but like
execution-wise, not great.
Every Pixel phone, like you pre-ordered it and you could get it the day it comes out, or you could get it like 6 weeks later. And there's no way of knowing. It's just complete chance.
So the other problem, beautiful controller, by the way.
Yeah,
I gotta say,
nice.
the design is nice. But the other problem is that one of the appeals of becoming a founder is that you get to register your screen name first.
Oh.
And as we all know, if you went onto Xbox Live right now for the first time,
Someone's going to take Ricky for the win before you get to it.
Exactly. So that's the problem. And apparently, people who are signing up for the service yesterday or the day before were getting activation codes before the founders. So I'm very excited for the class action lawsuit.
Registering. All right, PewDiePie.
Yeah, exactly.
Jacksepticeye.
Mm-hmm.
Haha.
Well, there you go. So far, not off to a good start. Hopefully, I get to actually play it sometime soon.
Yeah.
And I'll let you know how it is.
Now, speaking of things that aren't going away soon, T-Mobile CEO John Legere is in fact going away soon.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Unlike in the startup world, most CEOs in the world of old tech are people that we'd never be able to pick out of a lineup, but John Legere is weirdly one of the most recognizable executives around, despite running a telecom. And that's probably because he dresses and acts like an absolute weirdo.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's John Legere before 2012 when he joined T-Mobile. Just a normal-looking boomer telecom businessman in his mid to late 50s. And here's how he's looked for the last 7 years. Long hair, pink everything, crazed look in his eyes. Basically, Ronald McDonald for cell phone plans.
He got some of that young blood up in Silicon Valley and just
Something
injected
like that. Yeah.
In addition to making over his whole look and doing double duty as both CEO and brand mascot, he further distanced himself from all those other uptight CEOs by having a big old potty mouth. One example of this is when he said of his competition, "These high and mighty duopolists are raping you for every penny you have. The fuckers hate you." I actually ended up apologizing for that one. But generally, anytime he spoke publicly, it was peppered with plenty of fucks, shits, and goddams. And people actually loved it. He did a pretty good job of...
he turned the company around. Like, they were headed towards disaster, and now they're quite successful. So
yes.
if we're judging this by just, business graphs and numbers, he's a good CEO.
Yeah, and he can cook a slow meal or whatever. He's slow cooker Sundays.
That's right.
Yeah, he's got a cookbook out.
He does.
Yeah.
And the attitude and the look.
And a doll. Oh my God, remember the Ledger doll?
We will get to the doll. The attitude and the look the profanity, the pink. It gave Legere a startup CEO vibe rather than a stuffy old telecom CEO vibe, but it was also backed up by some pretty forward-thinking changes to T-Mobile's business practices, like better, simpler contracts, which ended up very successfully turning around T-Mobile's downward descent and making them actually competitive versus Verizon and AT&T. At the same time, T-Mobile did also engage in a lot of the same sorts of fuckery that the other companies did, and a lot of their more recent perks are basically just indirect violation of the principles of net neutrality. But generally speaking, John Legere's impact on the industry was good, and it forced other companies to try not to screw over their customers quite as much.
Yeah, I feel like he listened to the youngs at the company. Because everything that people wanted from a cell phone company, despite T-Mobile not being the best as far as coverage and reliability at the time, it has grown, but people were like, I want no contract and unlimited data. And they're like, oh, yeah, if we just do that.
He said when he got hired that he went to the job interview like not actually serious about it at all. He's just like, I'll just do it as a favor for like this headhunter that I know. And so he went in the meeting, and they're like, well, what would you do if you were the CEO? And he's like, I don't know, you guys are fucking everything up. I'd probably make a ton of changes and just shit all over them. And they were like,
wow. Yeah.
You've got the job, sir.
Yeah, confidence is key.
I guess.
One last thing about John Legere, which I previously had brought up. His weird antics, they generally went over well. One exception was the Legere doll. It's an extremely creepy and bizarre little doll just modeled after Legere. It has its own social media accounts for no reason, where it makes posts that are even more aggressively hello fellow teens than Legere's actual main accounts. A Legere doll has been posting several times a week for the last 5 years, and it's very impressive how little traction he managed to get in all that time.
It's just not happening.
He's retweeting it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he replied back to me at one point when I called it creepy and got very defensive about it.
Yeah,
No.
He's a little too online.
Legere doll, it was never going to be a thing, although I'm sure John Legere wanted this to be available for purchase in every T-Mobile store.
One of these days I'm going to die, like all humans do. The Legere doll will live on.
Yes.
I'm grooming him as the next CEO.
Yeah, still, nevertheless, John Legere, he persisted and tried to get the doll famous. Sad to see what happens to Legere doll when Legere leaves T-Mobile next year, but I don't know. There's definitely like a dump truck full of them somewhere.
Yeah.
They're going to end up in that landfill in New Mexico.
Yeah, there's no way they didn't order way more than anyone actually wanted. Yeah, there's got to be a landfill.
Don, what's this line item here on the budget?
Oh, it's Legere doll.
Wait, you ordered multiple Legere dolls?
Yeah, I ordered about 1 million of them.
Oh, for what?
One for every follower I have on Twitter. They're all going to want Legere doll. So yeah, R.I.P. Legere doll, I guess. I don't know.
We can only hope, yeah.
One last thing about John Legere. So last week, rumors were swirling that he was planning on leaving T-Mobile to become the new CEO of WeWork, which would be hilarious.
Yes.
But then those rumors were quickly quashed by insiders, including the rumor that he was leaving T-Mobile. But then, of course, just a few days later, he announced that he was, in fact, leaving T-Mobile. So I guess we'll see about the WeWork thing.
Yeah.
But he does have a reputation for turning around failing companies. I would argue that WeWork is less of a failing company and more of just an inherently doomed company. But exciting stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that he could go in there and turn it around by making it an actual functioning workplace and not a frat house.
Yeah, that would be step one.
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of CEOs, quick update on Elon Musk's defamation lawsuit revolving around all those times he basically accused a guy of being a pedophile. You remember all that. And despite Musk's legal team's effort to get the case dismissed, the request has been denied, and the case will now be heading to trial the first week of December. This has a decent potential to be the second time Musk loses an absurd amount of money over some dumb shit that he posted to Twitter.com. Can't wait to see how this plays out. Usually December's a dead month as far as news stories go.
Well, this looks like it'll be a December to remember.
Yes. The December to remember court event.
Yeah. I love that they're fast tracking it. That's like 3 weeks away. Hell,
we're going to have a giant Lexus-style bow on top of the settlement that he has to pay. It's just right up to Unsworth's house.
Yeah, Unsworth, he stands to get a
It's a
nice
Tesla with a giant bow on it.
Christmas payday.
Oh.
He's going to be the next king of Thailand.
Don't let all that money go to his head.
No.
Yeah.
In other Elon news, I'm not sure we've talked about SpaceX's Starlink plan to launch around 40,000 satellites into orbit to provide internet coverage to everyone on Earth.
We certainly have.
But on paper, it sounds like a potentially good idea. Global internet access. That sounds good, right? Well, astronomers were not too keen on the idea when it was announced because the 3,000 satellites already in orbit are already a nuisance to their work. So obviously they don't like the idea of 14 times as many satellites being in the night sky. Makes sense.
It looks like Santa comes over the Earth every couple of days.
Yeah.
It really is something. During the hours just after sunset and just before sunrise, satellites reflect the sun. And that's bad news for astronomers who are trying to look at stars and planets that are extremely far away and therefore not nearly as bright. Pausing your work while one satellite passes by is inconvenient, and a long chain of hundreds of satellites is therefore much more inconvenient. So it is understandable that this week astronomers operating Chile's CTIO telescope publicly complained about how much Starlink is fucking up their work.
Yeah, it's still a relatively minor inconvenience, making a few minutes of their work worthless, but SpaceX has so far only launched less than 1% of their planned Starlink satellites, so this has the potential to become a big problem for astronomy. For their part, SpaceX says that they might make future launches less reflective somehow. Just put some of that Vanta black on it. And they also point out that the Starlink satellites currently in orbit are at a much lower altitude than future launches will be. Other suggestions from the astronomy community include SpaceX providing them with detailed real-time trajectories for all their satellites, which seems reasonable, as well as, maybe taking some of that money that they stand to make off of the whole global internet thing and maybe handing some of that over to astronomers so they can fund some solutions to a problem that SpaceX has created that's only going to get worse.
Nah, SpaceX will solve it. Anyways, why are these people always looking up to the stars when they can move to South Dakota? A perfectly good state.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Anyways, it's time for us to tell you about some products and services that are sponsoring our show. And that starts with Stitch Fix. Personal style is like a fingerprint. Everyone has their own. Whatever your style, the expert stylists at Stitch Fix are ready to help you express yourself. Stitch Fix is an online personal styling service that delivers your favorite clothing brands right to your door. To get started, go to stitchfix.com/newsday, answer some questions about your preferred style, and your personal shopper will ship you a box of clothes, shoes, and accessories.
With Stitch Fix, everyone can look their best. They have solutions for men, women, and kids all over the US, and now the UK.
Ooh!
Good day, governor. Would you like some clothes? There's no commitment required, and you only pay for what you keep. Shipping, exchanges, and returns are always free. Plus, the $20 styling fee is automatically applied towards anything you keep from your box. You'll never have to worry about looking good again with Stitch Fix. Get started today at stitchfix.com/newsday and get an extra 25% off when you keep everything in your box. That's stitchfix.com/newsday.
And this episode is also sponsored by Kaptara. What if you could make your work take less work? You can with Kaptara. Kaptara helps you find the right software for your needs fast so you can get back to business even faster. Compare thousands of software options, read reviews, and instantly narrow your favorites. You'll have more time in no time. Find the right software right now at kaptara.com/newsday.
Kaptara is the leading free online resource to help you find the best software solution for your business. With over 1 million reviews of products from real software users, discover everything you need to make an informed decision. Search more than 700 specific categories of software, everything from project management to email marketing to yoga studio management software. No matter what kind of software your business needs, Kaptara makes it easy to discover the right solution fast. Join the millions of people who use Kaptara each month to find the right tools for their business. Visit kaptara.com/newsday for free today to find the tools to make an informed software decision for your business. That's CAPTERRA, kaptara.com/newsday. Kaptara, software selection simplified.
Now back to the news. Twitter has made their ban on political advertising official, finally. As you'll recall, a few weeks back, Facebook was under fire for their stance on political ads, which basically amounted to, go ahead and just lie in your political ads. All we care is that we are getting paid. In the midst of this, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey pulled his classic move of just doing whatever the opposite Facebook is doing, or whatever they're currently in trouble for, and announced that rather than fact-checking political ads, they'd just be banning them entirely.
Genius. Well, now that they've released their official policy on political advertising, and it's quite simple for the most part, here's a taste. We define political content as content that references a candidate, political party, elected or appointed government official, election, referendum, ballot measure, legislation, regulation, directive, or judicial outcome. Ads that contain references to political content, including appeals for votes, solicitations of financial support, and advocacy for or against any of the above listed types of political content, are prohibited under this policy. We also do not allow ads of any type by candidates, political parties, or elected or appointed government officials.
So this applies not just to politicians and parties, but also to PACs and super PACs.
Good.
There are, however, exceptions for accounts that have met all the necessary requirements to be classified as news, though they still can't run ads that explicitly advocate for or against politicians, parties, regulations, and so on. There are also exceptions for what they call cause-based advertising that educates, raises awareness, or calls people to action while remaining not explicitly political, though these types of ads can only be targeted at the state or national level and can't use political interest for ad targeting.
Still, though, the cause-based stuff has the biggest potential to become a headache for Twitter, since most causes are inherently political.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how topics like environmentalism, abortion, immigration, and so on get treated under this policy, because it's easy to talk about them without endorsing a particular politician or party, but they're definitely political issues that people think about when they vote. So yeah, I guess we'll see how this plays out.
It's going to be completely abused all the time.
Shit show.
Yes. The fact that we ran an ad making fun of Twitter with absolutely no oversight at all, just clicked a button and started it, is going to be a huge problem, because it's going to take people actually reporting these ads and Twitter sifting through all of the reports, seeing something, and then making an actual decision based on that ad before it even comes down.
Yeah.
So, who knows? Moving on to hacking news. Our local Los Angeles district attorney issued a warning just last week about juicejacking. It's not as sexual as it sounds, though. The warning reads, travelers should avoid using public USB power charging stations in airports, hotels, and other locations because they may contain dangerous malware. In the USB charger scam, often called juicejacking, criminals load malware onto charging stations or cables they leave plugged in at the station, so they may infect the phones and other electronic devices of unsuspecting users. The malware may lock the device or export data and passwords directly to the scammer. Scary stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really a thing that I had thought about before, but it does make sense.
Yeah.
And it's pretty scary.
Luckily, I charge my phone all the time. My wife, on the other hand, phone's always empty.
She's going to get juice jacked.
Uh-huh.
Someone jacked my juice.
Uh-huh. That's why I always bring 5 power bricks with me everywhere. I do my own juice jacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, it's also pretty easy to avoid this altogether if you instead just charge your phone with an AC adapter.
Or your own block.
Yeah, and if you do have to use a public USB port, and a little dialog box pops up on your screen when you plug it in, say no. Do not click yes. And if you're really paranoid, there's what's known as USB condoms.
Ooh, for juice jacking.
Yeah. Which are they're cables or cable attachments that block data and only allow charging to pass through.
Do they look like regular condoms?
I wish. No, they just
Are they like those finger condoms?
No. I wish they did, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, in any case, this seems like something that, while possible, doesn't actually happen much at all. LA County's chief prosecutor told TechCrunch that they've seen no actual cases of juicejacking, and most security researchers agree that it's mostly just a possibility and nothing more so far. Still, though, juicejacking sure is fun to say, so
Yeah.
I'm glad we brought it up.
In other hacking news, an infamous hacker known as Phineas Fisher, who has somehow managed to remain anonymous for at least the past 5 years, has offered up what they're calling the Hacktivist Bug Hunting Program, in which they're offering to pay up to $100,000 to hackers who pull off politically motivated hacks against companies that lead to the disclosure of documents in the public interest.
In their manifesto, Phineas Fisher wrote, hacking to obtain and leak documents with public interest is one of the best ways for hackers to use their abilities to benefit society. I'm not trying to make anyone rich. I'm just trying to provide enough funds so that hackers can make a decent living doing a good job. They also
Sounds wholesome.
Yeah. They also claim to have hacked and robbed an offshore bank in the Isle of Man, which the bank later confirmed happened. Phineas wrote, I robbed a bank and gave the money away. Computer hacking is a powerful tool to fight economic inequality. The global financial elite are oppressors, not victims. Hacking that elite and returning the tiniest fraction of the wealth that they've stolen doesn't make them victims. It is cybercrime. It's also activism. It's motivated by a desire for social change. I'm not personally profiting or benefiting from it.
On the Isle of Man, they only have that motorcycle race where people die all the time. What are you going to go hack them for?
It's an offshore, because Isle of Man's in that
Oh, is it
weird-
like one of those tax havens or?
Yeah, Isle of Man's like this weird thing where it's a crown subject, but it's not part of the UK or the EU, so it's a tax haven. Like there's a bunch of those islands around Britain fall under this like weird gray area.
Yeah, so it was like, what was it? Apple was that Scotland?
Apple was using Ireland.
Oh, Ireland, yeah.
But like yeah, it's even shadier. Like the smaller the country,
The more ripe it is for
the more
financial
likely
crime.
they're just going to be like they change their banking rules to be just like, yeah, we'll look the other way. Just give us your billions, and we're all good here. So yeah, fuck those people. Good.
And it's fun news because hacking and stealing from offshore banks, it's a cool and victimless crime.
Yeah.
There you go. We look forward to hearing more from Phineas Fisher. But in other hacking news, here's a more lo-fi hack. It's actually not really a hack at all, and more along the lines of the college admission scandal we recently went through over here in the US. Over in South Korea, they're apparently listing the names of children as authors of scientific research papers so those kids can later list that research on their college admissions resumes. It's a long
Brilliant.
time. Yeah. In some cases, it was the actual researchers' own kids' names. In other cases, it sounds like researchers were paid off to add names. So far, 17 research authors have been found to actually be teenagers or preteens, but experts seem to think the problem may be much more widespread.
South Korea is such a fun country because it's like fucking corrupt as hell. Like, and I mean, they seem to be like cleaning things up. They had that whole thing with like their president like 3 years ago.
Samsung.
Yeah. But it's just like
And the whole K-pop scene.
well, the K-pop scene is
Forced
like,
dating.
it is pretty fucked up when you start looking into it. Like,
Yeah, it's very fucked up.
yeah.
I don't want to cause any ire with the K-pop fans because we all know how aggressive they are, but
Yeah. But yeah, if you look behind the scenes of the K-pop industry, it is very weird. It's like basically how the Western music industry worked in like the late 1940s, where it's like, or like the studio system in film, like in the early 20th century, where it's just like, yeah, well, cool, you signed the contract, so we basically own you, and we get to control your entire life.
if you eat steak because it tastes good and you can look away from the brutal slaughterhouse stuff, then you can, by the same hand, you could, if you enjoy that music, you can enjoy K-pop.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you're like, man, I really like the taste of steak, but I'm gonna go vegetarian because I don't like animals getting slaughtered, maybe take a look at K-pop.
Yeah.
And maybe feel a little bit guilty when you listen to the music that you love so much.
Anyways, I look forward to this trend to get picked up in America where people's kids, rich kids, just their names are on research papers for no reason.
It's not just generational wealth anymore.
Yeah.
They're passing down actual research to their future generation so they can get into college without having to worry about it.
It's brilliant.
Do not open this research paper till your 18th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
It's the real Gerber Life Grow Up plan.
Well, anyway, if you are a patron or a YouTube member, we got a great podcast this week that you should definitely give a listen to, where we cover a lot of fun topics, including the Mayor Pete dance, which I'm not going to do. But if you want to see us do it, watch yesterday's episode where we talked about the Mayor Pete dance, South Dakota's weird meth advertising, which I think is supposed to be anti-meth. Mm-hmm. And
More Epstein stuff.
More Epstein stuff, yeah.
And then also a brand new episode of Weekly Weird News about...
Not brand new at this point, but yeah.
If I haven't seen it, it's new to me.
It's certainly ripe.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Well, we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.